Hello, options traders. Steve Gans here, and I wanted to follow up on a trade that I reviewed with you about a week or so ago. I'm going to put that trade, a link to that, at the end of this particular video, so look for that. I also want to say, if you like this content, please give me a comment, like, subscribe, and so I know what people are interested in, and I'll bring more of it to you. But for right now, what I wanted to do was point out that when I last reviewed this about probably a little over a week ago, I came in and I looked. Nvidia was trading all the way up here at around 140, 141. At that time, with Nvidia trading, if I zoom this out, let's see, we'll put both of these at around 18% or so. All the way out here, I mean, this trade was looking golden, while this one, where I had added the call spread up here at 141, was not looking so good. Now, I said at the time that I think Nvidia might stall or pull back a little bit because it had broken out so much. And of course, that is in fact what has happened. Nvidia has pulled back from approximately the 141 down to 119-ish, 118-ish, somewhere in that range. And I want you to notice something. If we look at this area right here, I would call this an area of support. Does that mean Nvidia's decline is going to stop here? It does not. But we had a hard time punching through it, hard time punching through it, hard time punching through it. Finally punched through it, took off. Then every time it sold off, it came right back to roughly this 116 area. Bounced off it, came back to 116, bounced off it, came back to 116, bounced off it. My expectation at this point, from a technical analysis standpoint, is that Nvidia is more likely to rally higher from here than it is to continue selling off, based on this very rudimentary technical analysis. We can also see that previously 95 or that 96 mark had been an area of resistance. It was resistance here, resistance here. Then it finally gapped through it and took off. So that's how technical analysis tends to work. Again, does that mean for sure Nvidia is going to bounce here? Absolutely not. But I think there's a likelihood that it might. I think it's better than a 50% chance that it would rally higher from here. If that's my premise, how might I treat this trade? This is the trade that I technically am actually in at this point. I opened this example with this trade, and then as you recall, I came in on 6.5 after this thing had rallied up quite a bit, and I said, you know what? I don't think it's going to go a lot higher. I'm going to add a call spread on here to juice that trade. That turned the maximum profit from $1,300 up to $1,860 by essentially raising this tent because of this additional call spread that I sold. Because I took in additional money too selling this call spread, you can see that it also dropped my max loss. My max loss was potentially $1,600. Now my max loss is $1,140. So how might I treat this trade right now? What could I consider doing in this trade if my premise is that Nvidia might rally back up from here? I could just leave it where it is, let it decay in this general range. I could also come in and potentially take some of these call spreads off here. So I could even take all of them off if I had a conviction that Nvidia might rally significantly higher. That's not my conviction, though. My conviction is it might rally back up into that 135, maybe 140 range where the prior highs are, and I want to give it a little room to move to the upside. If that's my opinion, I might choose to thin out some of those call spreads. Now we can see here that I sold this call spread, these 10 call spreads, for $3.25. I can currently buy them back in around the 157 range. I'm going to buy back 5 of them. So we'll buy to close. Now I need to do the same thing here. I need to sell 5 of these in order to keep this balanced out, if you will. Now, of course, I lost money on these because I paid $2.73 for them. I can only sell them for $1.33. But the net between these two is profitability. So now I'm going to sell these to close. It's going to go between the bid-ask spread and going to give me a price in that, 122, 123 range. So now I have closed those out. You can see I took off some upside risk. So if Nvidia does in fact tear up here, get back up to that 135, 136, whatever, my risk is not down here somewhere. In exchange for that, of course, I added back in a little bit of downside risk. But again, I'm okay with that at this point, because if my opinion is that Nvidia might bounce up from here, that's not a big deal to me. Let me go ahead, save this trade now, and I'm going to actually save it as a new trade, but let me make a note in here as to what I did. We're currently 624, and so I'll put in, let's see, 624.24, thinned out, call spread, locking in some profits on that spread. Okay, and I'm going to essentially save this as a new trade. That way I can compare all three of these as we move forward in time. So hopefully this made sense to you. Again, if you find this sort of content interesting, make sure you like, subscribe, give me any comments or questions. Obviously I can't go too complex in my answers to those questions if they're very detailed, but I certainly want to try to help as much as I can. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.